English Listening Practice. Episode 3. How can ambitious and lazy people succeed in life? Hello, everyone. I'm Emily, and today I want to talk about something that many of us wonder about. How can someone who is ambitious and lazy succeed in life? Now, I know that might sound a bit confusing at first, but stick with me. Today, we're going to break it down in a very simple way and share some real ideas. And even a short story that shows how someone who might be a bit on the lazy side can still chase big dreams. You see, ambition is that inner spark, the big dreams you have about what you want to achieve, like getting a great job, starting a business, or even just becoming better at something you love. But sometimes, even when we have those dreams, we feel lazy. And that laziness isn't always a bad thing. It can be a sign that we need to find a different approach to reach our goals. We all have days when we'd rather just relax than work hard, and that's perfectly natural. The trick is to understand how to use both our ambition and our moments of laziness to our advantage. Let's start by talking about how we all have different energy levels. Some of us are morning people who wake up with a burst of energy, ready to take on the day. Others find that their creativity and drive come later in the day, or even at night. If you're someone who feels lazy in the mornings, don't beat yourself up about it. Instead, try to schedule your most important tasks for the time when you naturally feel more active. It's all about understanding your own rhythm. One of the first things I like to do is set a small, clear goal each day. When your goal is tiny, like writing one sentence in your journal or reading one page of a book, it feels much more manageable. These little achievements add up over time. I remember when I first started trying to improve my own habits, I set a goal to just drink a glass of water when I woke up. It sounds simple, right? But that small act of discipline helped me build momentum for the rest of my day. And that's one of the key ideas I want to share with you today. Success doesn't always come from huge leaps. It often comes from small, steady steps. Now, let me share a short story about a man named Jason. Jason was a very interesting person because, like many of us, he had big dreams, but also struggled with a strong sense of laziness. Jason dreamed of starting his own small tech business, something that would allow him to work on innovative ideas and be his own boss. But here's the twist. Jason loved his leisure time. He enjoyed watching TV, scrolling through social media, and spending hours just relaxing. Many people would call him lazy, but Jason's ambition was undeniable. At the beginning of his journey, Jason tried to force himself to work like everyone else he thought was successful. He set an alarm for 5 a.m., forced himself to work for hours without breaks, and even tried to stick to a strict schedule. But after a few days, he found that he was just exhausted. He would burn out quickly and end up doing nothing at all. Then one day, he decided to take a different approach. Instead of fighting his natural tendency to relax, Jason decided to work with it. He began by observing when he actually felt most energetic. It turned out that Jason was not a morning person at all. He was more awake and creative in the afternoon. So he started to let himself sleep a little longer in the morning, and he reserved his best work for the afternoon hours. Instead of forcing a 5 a.m. start, he set a goal to work for 1 solid hour in the afternoon every day on his business idea. That hour was all about brainstorming new ideas, jotting down plans, or even just researching things online. At first, it was just 1 hour, but soon enough, that hour became a habit, and he naturally extended it as he grew more comfortable with his routine. What's really interesting about Jason's story is that he also learned the power of planning without overwhelming himself. He started writing down a simple to-do list every day. His list wasn't full of big, intimidating tasks. It was full of small, clear actions. For example, on one day he might write, "Research one new technology trend," and on another day, "Call a friend for advice about business ideas." These tasks were small, but they made a big difference because they kept him moving forward, even on days when he felt like doing nothing. Jason realized that by breaking his big dream into tiny, manageable pieces, he could overcome his laziness and build real progress. I think Jason's story shows us something very important. Being lazy doesn't mean you're not ambitious. It just means you have to work smarter. Instead of trying to mimic the habits of those who are always on the go, you find what works best for you. And that's something we can all learn from. If you feel that you're more inclined to relax and take it easy, that's okay. The key is to set up a system that allows you to use your energy when it naturally comes and not to punish yourself for being different. Another idea that comes to mind is the concept of self-discipline. Self-discipline isn't about being harsh with yourself all the time. It's about creating habits that help you reach your goals without draining you. For many people, the idea of discipline makes them think of strict rules and endless routines. But really, it's about doing the things that matter, even when you don't feel like doing them. For example, you might decide to spend just 10 minutes each day on a task that moves you toward your goal. It might not seem like much, but those 10 minutes add up over time. Jason did this too. He started with just an hour of focused work, and gradually his discipline grew as his confidence grew. And speaking of confidence, I want to touch on the importance of self-compassion. Too often, we judge ourselves harshly for not being as productive as we think we should be. I used to beat myself up over a lazy day, thinking that it meant I was failing. But over time, I learned that it's okay to have lazy moments. Rest is important for creativity and health. What matters is that you don't let a lazy day become a lazy week. In Jason's case, even on days when he didn't feel like working, he still did at least one small task. This habit of doing something, no matter how small, helped him build a cycle of achievement that kept his ambition alive. Now let's switch gears and talk about planning and organization. Some people believe that if you plan everything perfectly, you'll have no room for mistakes. But in reality, life is unpredictable. The key is to have a flexible plan. Think of it as a rough roadmap rather than a strict schedule. Jason found that if he allowed himself some flexibility in his schedule, he was less likely to feel overwhelmed. For instance, he would plan his day with a few key tasks but also allow for breaks and unexpected events. This way, if something came up or if he simply wasn't in the mood to work on one task, he could switch to another without feeling like he had failed. I also want to emphasize the role of motivation. Motivation is a tricky thing because it can change from one day to the next. There are days when you wake up full of energy and ready to conquer the world, and there are days when even getting out of bed feels like a huge challenge. What many people don't realize is that you can't always rely on motivation to get things done. That's why building habits is so important. Habits don't depend on your mood, they're automatic. When you develop a habit of working on your goals every day, even if it's just for a short time, you create a foundation for long-term success. One method that has helped many people is the 2-minute rule. The idea is simple. If a task will take 2 minutes or less, do it immediately. It sounds trivial, but it works wonders. When you start by clearing small tasks out of the way, you build momentum that makes it easier to tackle larger projects. Imagine that you have a big goal, like learning a new skill or writing a book. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the entire project, you break it down. You might decide, today I will spend 2 minutes reading about this topic, and then gradually increase the time. This method not only reduces procrastination, but also builds confidence over time. I want to remind you that success is not about doing everything perfectly or working non-stop. Success is about making progress, even if it feels slow sometimes. It's about understanding your own strengths and weaknesses and finding a path that works for you. There's no shame in being a bit lazy if it means you're taking care of yourself. In fact, sometimes a lazy day can be the most productive day if it gives you the rest you need to tackle challenges later on. Let's talk about balance because that's really where it all comes together. Life isn't just about work. It's about finding a balance between doing what you need to do and taking care of yourself. Jason, the man I mentioned earlier, learned that balance was the secret to his progress. He didn't try to force himself into a rigid schedule that left him drained. Instead, he learned to listen to his body and mind. On days when he felt energetic, he worked more. On days when he felt tired, he allowed himself to rest, but he always made sure to do at least one small thing that would keep him moving forward. Another important point is that success is often a journey with many ups and downs. There will be days when you feel on top of the world and days when nothing seems to work. The trick is to keep going, even when progress seems slow. Every little step, every small decision to work towards your goal counts. Think of it like climbing a mountain. You might not reach the summit in one big leap, but if you take one step at a time, eventually you will get there. Take some time at the end of each day or week to think about what you accomplished, no matter how small. Ask yourself, what did I do today that brought me closer to my goal? It might be writing a few lines in your journal, reading a helpful article, or even just thinking about your plans. This reflection not only reinforces your progress, but also helps you adjust your approach if something isn't working. Jason kept a simple journal where he noted down his daily achievements. Over time, he could look back and see how far he had come, which was incredibly motivating. Now, I'd like to share a bit more about the mindset behind balancing ambition with a natural tendency to be lazy. It's important to change the way you think about your own habits. Instead of seeing laziness as a flaw, try to view it as a signal that you might need a different approach. For example, if you're feeling unmotivated, perhaps it's because the task at hand isn't interesting to you. In that case, try to find a way to make it more engaging. Sometimes even a small change in how you approach a task can make a huge difference. Another aspect to consider is the influence of the people around you. Surrounding yourself with supportive and positive people can help boost your energy and keep you accountable. If you're always around others who have a similar mix of ambition and a relaxed approach, you'll find it easier to follow through on your goals. Even if you don't have a group of like-minded friends in person, there are plenty of online communities where people share tips and support each other. When you feel connected to others who understand your struggles, it makes the journey a lot less lonely. Remember that there's no need to compare your progress to someone else's. Everyone has a unique path, and what works for one person might not work for another. The story of Jason is a great example. He wasn't the fastest or the most energetic person in the room, but he found a way to work with his natural rhythm. Instead of forcing himself into a schedule that didn't fit, he created one that worked for him. That's the key takeaway. Find what fits your life, and don't worry if it looks different from someone else's routine. Success isn't just about being busy or working all the time. It's about understanding who you are, setting realistic goals, and taking small steps toward those goals every day. Whether you see yourself as lazy or ambitious, the truth is that both qualities can be part of a successful life. The trick is to balance them in a way that works for you. It might help to think of success as a long, winding road. There will be times when the road is smooth and times when it's bumpy. Some days, you'll feel like you're making great progress, and other days, you might feel like you're not moving at all. But as long as you keep taking those little steps, you'll eventually reach your destination. Remember, it's not about how fast you get there. It's about not stopping. I hope today's podcast has given you some useful ideas and practical tips on how to balance ambition with a tendency to be lazy. Whether it's setting small, clear goals, planning your day in a flexible way, or simply allowing yourself the rest you need, there are many strategies to help you succeed without burning out. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I truly believe that every little effort you make, every tiny step forward, is a building block for a brighter future. And if you ever feel overwhelmed or unmotivated, just remember that even the most ambitious people have days when they need to rest. What matters is that you keep going, even if it's one small step at a time. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your friends. I'd love to hear your thoughts, So feel free to leave a comment about what works for you when you're trying to balance your ambition and your need for rest. Until next time, take care and remember, success is a journey, not a race. Keep moving at your own pace and celebrate every little victory along the way. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.